I'll hit record.
Okay.
All right. So welcome everybody. My name is Joe. I'm calling in from Hungary, and I'll be facilitating today's call. Cal, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Cal Ramon. You guys could call me Cal. I'm 10 years old right now, and I have 3D printers. I'm in California.
California. All right. Thanks, Cal. Jack?
I'm John Schell. I'm calling from Rochester, New York. I'm happy to be here.
All right. Who next?
I'll go. I'm Ryan. I'm actually not in my current home, Davis. I'm in San Francisco visiting some family, but I run the Davis chapter that's soon to be found. I'm a second year in college, and yeah, it's great to be here.
Thanks, Ryan.
I'll jump in. Gary Zarco, San Dimas, California, which is near Los Angeles. I'm on the core NABLE team, and I just started a chapter here to serve the San Gabriel Valley area, and we've got 2 projects running. Glad to be here.
I'll jump in. I'm Natalia. I'm a third-year medical student at the University of South Carolina in Greenville, South Carolina. We have recently been approved to start a chapter here, so we're really excited. And we have 1 printer right now, and ideally we'll get more ideas from you guys in terms of getting projects running. Glad to be here.
Hi, Natalia.
Is that everyone, Joe?
Yeah. So just in terms of agenda, so we're going to meet Jack today. He's going to talk to us a little bit about his Kwawu design, which is started to become really popular on the public wait list. I'm actually in the process of printing one right now. So we're going to hear a little bit from him about his journey here with the Kwawu, and then we'll take specific questions from the group, both for Jack and just sort of general questions. And then I'll have some announcements. Maybe John will have some announcements at the end. All right. So without further ado, Jack, take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe. So I'm Jack Buchanan. I am a software engineer by trade, and am decently good at mechanical engineering as part of my job. Fell into NABLE like 6 months ago, really recent, last spring. Had a lot of extra time at work, you know, from lots of people in the NABLE movement. It's like, oh, I have some extra time. I want to do something with my 3D printer. So I fall in that same category as everybody else. And started making hands and that sort of thing, and quickly realized that the design capability was something that I could really bring to the table more than delivery. Not that I wouldn't deliver to somebody local, but it's interesting, like a lot of people on chapters, it can be hard to find a local recipient. I'm in Frederick, Maryland, not far from DC. There's plenty of recipients in DC, but there's also a fair number of really good chapters in this area that are probably better at delivering than I am. So I wanted to focus more on design. And tinkered with, if you look online, I did something called the low profile gauntlet. Wanted to tinker with that. I still think it's a nice idea. I'd like to get back to that. But largely through Joe's wait list, right? And talking with other people, came to the conclusion myself that I really thought there was a bigger need for adult-sized arms in the developing world, as a basic description. And then again, through the wait list, saw Ishmael, and contacted Ishmael in Ghana and said, hey, let me get you a design that fits a little better, works a little better for you guys. It's an adult size and works a little better there. And so picked up Christian Silva's design for no other reason than it was mostly done, but wasn't an adult size, and really just modified Christian Silva's design to an adult size. That was my goal at the time for the Kwawu arm.
Well, and Jack, I want to emphasize just for everybody that one thing that I really loved about it was that by picking, you know, the Flexi hand as the terminal device, it really allowed us to use it heavily in Ghana and Nigeria and even in Asia as well, where they're looking for more natural looking devices. So, you know, for me, that natural look was something that the Unlimited arm just doesn't really have with the Phoenix, you know, handed.
Yeah. Yeah, the Phoenix hand is not really a natural looking hand, and it was a quick feedback, you know, working with Ghana and even I've talked a lot with the ECF guys, Jeff Aaronstone and his name escapes me all of a sudden, out of Autodesk, is working on the Limb Forge.
Andreas.
Yeah.
Great guys, a lot of good feedback, and they had some similar conclusion. I think their project is awesome, and one day I'll probably help them out. I just haven't had the time, and I thought, oh well, I really thought the Kwawu arm was something I could do quickly. It turns out nothing is quick. Nothing is quick and nothing is easy. But so I have one here that I printed out. This is one of the first that is a finished print that I've kept, because another thing I came to pretty quickly was, even though I can print, Eric Burbar down at who's really close to me, he's got a whole lab of like 6 printers, and just let him print them. and so he's actually printed the ones we've delivered, and so I can hold on to a final design that I like, and and develop from there.
Hey, can you show it to us in your video screen?
So there we go. So this is the actual Kwawu arm. This is at 100 scale, so it's an adult size, and it can scale down. And scaling is the biggest question I get all the time. Everybody asks, how do I scale it? That's my biggest question right now. And that's primarily what I'm working on right now. And my answer to the scaling question will be, get on Fusion 360, get the Fusion 360 design that I will post of this, and I have parameterized it already. So you can go into Fusion. You have to know your way around Fusion just enough to get into the tables, type in a few numbers, the standard measurement numbers, and it will scale the design for you.
Well, maybe we can make sure to get a video sort of tutorial of that.
Yeah, and then I'm just not done.
Okay.
So it's a fair amount of work to take something like this that I designed in Fusion, but didn't really design it with parameters in mind at the time. I was really just getting Christian Silva's design and making it work in Fusion, and Steve Wood's design, getting it in Fusion. And so now I need to go back and almost rebuild it with parameters. So it's really a rebuild of the project. But I've been working on it since February. So if I get some more free time, I'll have it finished. And anybody who's really good at Fusion 360 and wants to help out, that would be great. But in order to really parameterize a design, you have to be pretty good at Fusion. You have to really know your way around.
So I have a gift for you today, Jack.
Okay.
So there's a lady, her name is Esther Makai, a Hungarian lady here, and she's associated with our chapter, but really through one of our commercial partners. Okay. So she's a Fusion 360 designer at the biggest Hungarian 3D printing company here. So she offered just last night to work with you on that.
That would be awesome.
You might fit that bill of somebody who knows 360 and maybe even knows parameterization. She seemed to understand it.
Yeah, that would be awesome. That would really be awesome. I mean, parameterization is not something that a lot of people know, but even if you're good around Fusion, you can pick up the parameterization. You end up rethinking the design, and it would be great to sort of hand some parts off and say, hey, you do this cuff and I'll do this forearm, and different, just one part at a time. Yeah. is really what it takes. And I've been doing the cuff and this forearm because that's the hardest part to do. Steve Wood's design.
What about the hand?
Just going to be a straight scale. Okay. I really wish I could fully parameterize it, but that's real work. Andreas got pretty far with a bunch of his interns and the Phoenix, but you have to redo every every piece in Fusion, and Steve Wood didn't do them in Fusion, so you have to rebuild everything, and that's a fair amount of work. And to make it parameterizable and still organic is the hard part.
I want to believe, I'll look afterwards, but I swear I saw a post on Google Plus just the other day about somebody trying to tackle exactly that. So, I mean, maybe somebody is close to already having the hand done. And
yeah, even if they have rebuilt Steve's hand in Fusion, that's a big help.
Okay.
If they parameterize it one better, that's even better. But even if they just rebuilt it in Fusion, that's a big help right there, because then, you know, it's just a matter of retweaking all the splines and getting the parameters on them and that sort of thing. And I would love to do that because, so to sort of go back to some design changes, the whole palm, which was originally Steve Wood's design, has been sort of modified by just about everybody, including me. Everybody sort of gets in and tweaks the palm, and it's just a whole lot easier to do if I had a nice Fusion model of the palm. Doing it in a mesh mixer is a lot of work to do the types of modifications that I wanted to do. So one of the modifications, the biggest modification I wanted, was to get the Whipple tree in the palm, so that I could actually have a Whipple tree in the arm. And the best way to do that is to get the Whipple tree in the palm. And no other design, I think somebody had mentioned it, but I couldn't find another design, and certainly Christians didn't have a Whipple tree in the palm. So I had to open up the palm some, redesign it a little bit, redesign some holes in the palm, and it would just be nice if there was already a Fusion copy of that. And I did all that in Mesh Mixer.
Right. Okay.
So let me go through some. So let me go back up and go through sort of why I did some changes that I did. Again, Steve Wood's hand, original. Christian Silva had already made this forearm idea and cuff and attached it to Steve Wood's hand. So this wrist design is really what Christian brought to the table, and I think really critical, and something I did not want to mess with. I might later, but I didn't want to at the time, because Christian's main feedback with this wrist design was it needs to be really strong, right? And you'll see those in a lot of posts where people have attached, you know, and Eric was one of them, Eric Berber, who attached a unlimited arm to various hands, particularly the Phoenix hand, and for different hands, and just didn't get a strong enough wrist design, and they just tend to break. And so this design works, and I like it, but I would like to make it easier to build, easier to construct, because you really have to mold this plastic around, which is why I built that. The mold is included, so you can thermoform this forearm around and really jam it into this groove all the way around the palm, and that makes this wrist really tight, because now you've got this the plastic is really fitted inside a groove all the way around this palm, and it makes that really tight, so you're not easily going to break it here. If I just grab these and put enough force to break it, it's going to splinter in the arm somewhere first under a whole lot of force, right? Whereas the other designs, if you were to grab these and just break it over your knee, it would break way too soon here in the wrist, right? So I didn't want to modify that design, but a couple of design criteria I gave myself was to make it easier to construct in the developing world. So I wanted as many printable parts as possible, not having to source odd parts that, yeah, I can go down to Lowe's or Home Depot and get pretty easily, but you just can't get in Ghana or Latin America or other places I wanted to serve very well. So hence why I wanted all the bolts to be 3D printed, right? It's not impossible to get small metric bolts, but it's harder than you would think to get the various sizes, right? A full array of sizes of bolts. And so I wanted them to be 3D printable, yet not sort of structurally a problem. And I think I've made them all strong enough, thick enough that the bolts work in 3D printed, as long as they're printable, And as Joe ran into, is printing the bolts. You know, you have to, you want to put that on your printer's highest setting,
Yeah.
pretty much, for just the bolts. But they're small, not too, you know, not a big part. And then you're going to print them separately at probably the highest resolution your printer can handle for just the bolts.
Can you show bolt
Let me.
in hand or separately?
I didn't.
You don't have any. I have some, Jack.
I might have some. I have a lot of hinges. Whoops. Are you guys still there?
Yeah,
We're here.
we're here.
Yep.
Yep.
I lost some. There we go.
Do you want me to go grab some, Jack, or do you have them?
Yeah, I have bags
I'm
of stuff.
sorry,
And what I have lots of
just-
is hinges. I was going to get to that in a second.
Okay. He's going for them. Maybe you can point to where they are on the device.
Yeah, okay, there's none in there. All right. So so the forearm slips into a slot that's in the hand all the way around. And then there's a small bolt here which really just acts as a pin. So it pins through the wrist and through this forearm. So it can be a printed bolt because really it's just pinning the thing in place, right, to keep you from pulling it back out. There you go. So what he's got there is the bolt on the elbow here, the elbow bolt. As I'm redesigning, I'll probably
Cool.
make that bolt even thicker because that is your elbow bolt. I haven't broken one easily because the shear strength of that plastic is pretty good. Right? It's a really tight spot in there. The only way to break it, right, is to really sort of torque it and twist it. And if your arm is in there, you shouldn't be twisting too much. But if you were to twist the whole mechanism, it would break the bolt. But the arm being in there should prevent that from happening. And there's plenty of strength this way on the bolt. Right? I haven't been able to break one, you know, for less than 100 pounds this way. But I still think I'm going to make it thicker, just because. And so there's a bolt here and the bolt at the elbow. Again, there are two drivers for using Steve Wood's hand. One, it's more natural looking, and two, I didn't like the dental bands. Right? Dental bands are great in Europe, America. It's fine. You can go to Walmart, pick up new dental bands. That's fine. They last, depending on how often you use the arm, a month, a couple months, but not longer than a year. You know, they degrade in the sun. They degrade after a while. And dental bands are not something you can get in Ghana very easily. So I really wanted the joints to be 3D printable. I spent a long time. If you look up Steve Wood's hand, he has a very natural hand where the entire finger is flexible, right? I think I have a teeny one right here, right? It's hard to see, but it still has the joint built in there, but the whole finger is printed as one part. And you probably can't see, that's a terrible misprint. So I finally got these to print and thought nobody else in the world is going to get that to print. It was hard. It was really hard to print. I've said to many other people, you know, who've asked, I said, the humidity in the room will matter, right? I mean, just all sorts of things will matter when printing something that flexible. So I just said, I can't expect anybody else to do that. So the hinges are printed. I tend to use Ninja Flex. Filoflex works fine too. They're slightly different, so you end up with slightly different printing parameters, but I haven't noticed a big difference. And they don't wear out. I haven't, you know, not within a reasonable amount of time. They should last years, right? And the joints, once you printed them, got it printed, they last a long time. You don't have to replace it. You don't have to rebuild the hand. So I really prefer that, and so I like this design. The hinges are not easy to print, right? I do have lots of hinges here. I said that. Here's a bunch. So here's some hinges. right, that fit in between. It's 3D printed in flexible material, right? So that's where the flex happens. There's one at each joint, so you're printing a lot of them, but they're not very big. So I figured it was a good compromise. It's not an easy print for a lot of people, but it's not that hard. In that you just have to keep trying until you get it right. And they're small, so if you end up printing it 4, 5, 6 times before you get it right, you haven't wasted a lot of filament because they're relatively small. And once you figure it out for your printer, you'll pretty much have it figured out, and it won't take you more than a 1 or 2 prints each time to get it right, depending on scale. Maybe in Q&A, I can go into some Q&A on printing the hinges, you know, some benefits, things that I've discovered. It's a lot of trial and error, you know, how much infill to include, you know, what size to print at, all these things really are printer dependent. And like I've discovered, humidity in your room dependent. And it's just really crazier than it should be.
Yeah.
But not impossible to sort of dial it in and get it right. If you're willing to sort of keep trying, keep printing. And I just tell people, pick one hinge, maybe the thumb hinge, and just keep printing that one hinge until you get it right. You know, adjusting your parameters until you get it right. The main thing you got to realize is you've just got to slow your printer way down. And there's plenty of online guides to printing a NinjaFlex or Filaflex, and 9 times out of 10 it's print slow and at the right temperature, and you'll probably be all right. And then after that, it's how much infill to use in order to get it at the right flexibility. You can adjust how much infill all the way from very little to almost total infill. And why from one printer to the other, that varies. I don't know. One of those, because I've taken the same spool of NinjaFlex on my printer at my house, you know, to somebody else's printer and some other day, some other house, and we had to use different settings.
Wow.
And again, I've just come back to temperature, humidity, you know, ambient actually matters. But not so much that you can't, oh, well, that was slightly off. Adjust some parameters, 2 prints into it, you're generally okay. Right.
Hey, Jack, I'm gonna jump in for just a second. So a quick time check. My little countdown here is telling me that we've got 7 minutes. So we have a couple more minutes that we can go, but then I'm going to ask everybody to reconnect.
Okay.
And one thing, you know, I really hope that you'll talk about is your decision to bundle the Thingiverse thing with like multiple versions of the forearm. You know, both for single as well as 2x as well as, what is it, 6x?
6x, yeah. So this arm that I'm holding up is a 6x. So you can see there's a zipper joint here, and then down the middle here. And that's how I can get an adult-sized forearm. It was straightforward idea of, I want an adult-sized forearm on a not ridiculously expensive printer.
Yeah.
And so this is made for, I think, a 6" by 6". You can still get a really large, you know, or 8" by 8", a pretty small common printer bed. You can get a really big arm with 6 pieces. A lot of the you know, you can get a Tazbot or some printers that have large enough beds that you can use 2 pieces. So I think when Eric Berber, when we shipped arms, the actual arms we shipped to Ghana are 2 pieces, because he has a bigger printer and he can fit 2 pieces on his bed. I'd like to buy a printer I can print 1 piece, because I really want to try it.
Nice.
But there's like 1 or 2, because this is almost 2 feet end to end. It's a pretty big printer bed.
Yeah.
So the design of the zipper joints, I forget his name all of a sudden. I used his design as a guy on the Google Plus forum who had came up with this zipper, and it escapes me. I liked his idea and re-sculpted it in Fusion, but just it was his idea of the shape of these zippers.
Jack, and how do you go about bonding the zippers together?
I use super glue, and I like super glue. I toyed with Skip Metz's designs. He had some melted in designs they were never pretty. They always came out a little unsmooth. I could never get it to go really smooth. I didn't feel like it bonded down in the joint, right? I really wanted to bond the entire, width. I mean, it's only 2 millimeters or whatever, the width of this, but I still want the total bonding. With super glue, I can get super glue all along the entire joining edge. And
it holds up
and it bonds really well. Right. And whereas when you're melting, you generally are at best getting sort of something on the surface, something on this surface. It's not really melting all the way down in the joint. So I don't think the joint was strong enough. I took a couple of these and broke them at the joint, and it didn't break at the joint neatly, right? It broke up into the plastic. And so my point, well, it's as strong as the super glue is as strong as the plastic. So I liked it. And I felt it was prettier than the melting, and you get a little experience with super glue. This is actually a pretty good super glue job. There's not a lot of mess. Super glue will discolor the plastic a little bit. If you spill it, don't spill super glue. Don't glue your fingers together. It will glue your fingers together, but it also discolors the plastic a little bit. So and I have found, whose was it? I forget whose idea. Just after you thermoform, in general, I hit it with the heat gun to sort of give it a better look again, and that also helps with the super glue, right? If the super glue is discolored a little bit, hit it with a heat gun. Doesn't help as much with the super glue because it really seems to have gotten down on the plastic. So just be careful with your super glue, which you should anyway.
All right. Well, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and stop the video and ask everybody to reconnect. And Jack, if it's okay, can we open the next segment with Q&A?
Yeah, sounds like a plan.
All right, great. Thanks, everybody. I'll talk to you in just 1 minute. Give me about 30 seconds, 60 seconds to get reconnected, and then you can dial back in. All right, thanks, everybody.